Hello, 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 and welcome to the latest Allegiant Web live stream. Today I am joined by my colleague Gill. Hi, Gill.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Marty.
Hi. And following on from the last one we did, where we looked at different a way in which AI could actually help businesses, we're doing the second one in that series now, where Jill has done an investigation into asking AI. How do I set up a web business and how do I make money doing it? And so that's what we're going to cover today. So I will, without any ado, hand you over to Jill.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the things that I was really interested in, and as you, as business owners, will be interested in as well, is how the heck do we, what's the optimal setup for my business to be profitable? What I have to, do, what I have to have in place, what don't I have in place already that I need to have in place? And I thought, I wonder what the AIs have got to say about this, because surely setting up a business is a time honored tradition. Loads of people have done it throughout the centuries. There must be wisdom about this. So, and of course, we run a web agency. So, actually, I thought, well, let's see what the heck do we need to do, Martin, to make this thing fly even further. So, what I did was I went in and I tried a couple of chatbots. Is that what we're calling them? Chatbots. And I started with Chat GPT,
You've
which
nailed that.
I nailed that. And then I ran the same queries through Gemini, and then I had a little bit of a look at Claude or Claude. I don't know, the new one, Sonnet. And so I thought, well, we haven't really talked about that, so it'd be quite interesting to see what it does with this as well. So, Marty, do you want to share my screen for me? And I'll share. Now, guys, if you can't see this terribly well, down in the bottom right-hand corner, if you mouse over the edge of the shared screen, there's two arrows that do one of those directions. And if you click on that, it makes it bigger. I'm going to do that so I can see that, which means I can't see the chat. So, Martin, if you'd be okay if you pick up any questions that folks might have.
Sure, will do.
So this is the question that I asked it. What's the best structure of a web design and development agency to make it profitable? Let me know the best roles for the staff, how many staff I would need, the average salary of the staff, and the average I would have to charge per website to make it happen. Suggest some details of how the workflows should be arranged and what the best marketing strategy should be. This agency is based in the UK in 2024. Now, that was a huge ask for it. So there's a lot of moving parts in there. So what did ChatGPT do? It said, oh, I'm trying to scroll down the sharing screen, but I can't do that. I have
I
to
do that every time.
yeah. I have to actually go to the one that I can scroll. Right. So, as you can see, it gave me a whole bunch of stuff about the organizational structure and the key roles in staffing. So it wants me to have a CEO. That's me. Apparently, I'm a visionary, strategic planner, and client relations person. I felt really good about myself after seeing that because that's how they described me.
I would
Then
describe you like that as well, by the way.
Thank you. That's very kind. So these other roles that it started to bring up started to make me hyperventilate a little. I don't I don't know how you feel when you look at them. So I need a project manager, a lead designer, 2 to 3 other designers, a lead developer, 2 to 3 other developers, a content strategist, writer, digital marketer, sales account manager, and an admin oblique HR person. That's a total of 10 to 12 employees. That's a lot. I was thinking, oh my goodness. I struggle with the staff that I have and certainly don't have that many. And they've put in helpfully some of the average salaries for each of these in the UK. It will obviously be different depending on where you're based in the world, but this is what they reckon in the UK it's going to cost me to make this perfect company. And I loved my wages. I thought they're going to be great once I get that sorted. I can't wait for that. And then what I reckoned was actually I do quite a number of these jobs, so maybe I should have the salary for quite a number of them. Yeah. Mm. Anyway, then I thought, right, okay, we need all this money. Where are we going to get this? What are we going to do? We need something to be charging between 5 grand a website to get there. I don't know about you, Martin, but I would say that in the UK, in my business, that is not the average range. What would you say?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, basic website. Obviously, it depends, but I mean, typically you might be looking around, say, £1,500,
Mm,
for example, and going up from there. That's the basic website before we start talking about, e-commerce and those other bits and pieces. So, yeah, it's really interesting when people go, well, why does a website cost X?
mm.
So this is another way of kind of looking at it and going, well, here's one of the reasons.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? And then it only gets better from there. So I think either we are grossly undercharging or something's not quite right here. Anyway, carry on. So it's given some nice workflows about initial consultation, the proposal, the kickoff, the design phase, development phase, content creation, some Q&As, and then launch and post-launch support. So these are pretty standard, I would say, for website. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that there's a lot of
Mm,
moving parts beside the actual building the site itself to make sure that what you build is something that's going to be successful for the
yeah.
client that you're building it for.
Yeah, so it's pretty well nailed there. And then marketing strategy, looking at your digital presence, your social media page. Now, these are very short, and I love that they're like 2 bullet points, but actually, each of these would take quite a long time to get. So you would have to drill into these individual things and get more detail, obviously, because these are, getting your referrals. I was speaking to a coaching client this morning about referrals, and actually, 2 bullet points ain't going to cover it by the time you talk through how they're going to their whole process for asking people for even Google referrals or Google reviews. Excuse me, sorry. So, yeah, and your email marketing, yeah, building. And I know you do this quite a lot, Martin. You do list building and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
anyway, that was that. And then I thought, oh, you've not answered the how many websites do I need to do to be profitable? So I re-asked the question. Then it got quite interesting because it took all the salaries that it decided that we were having, which I thought was good. And then it gave me a total of what the agency would have to bring in for those salaries. Then it made up some mythical other expenses, which I thought was quite good, and then gave me a total annual expenses. Then it calculated based on those mythical website figures that it made up what it was going to do. So it was going to give me some basic websites, some standard ones, and some average things. And then it made this lovely calculation to determine a break even point. Now, it actually determines that we need 73.75, that 0.75 is really important, websites to break even. But if you want to profit, you're going to have to move up a bit and go in to work out your desired profit. Then the calculation adds the profit in, and then it becomes slightly increase, obviously, as you would expect. And we want 80.5 websites. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's a lot of websites. But anyway, that is what you would need to do, or approximately 89. So and that's a 20% profit margin. So that's quite an interesting thing to do. And I thought that actually, if you could do that for any business, couldn't you? You could run that through and you could feed it more and more real information. So you could start putting, like, changing things like, okay, I'm going to take a 10% profit margin in year one. I don't have premises. We work from home, so we can get rid of that expense. You can start feeding it more and more realistic things into the scenario until you get something that's actually really helpful. Um, eh,
I think that's a really good point. One of the things that I noticed, like last week when we were looking at deliveries, and it had estimated a miles per gallon without knowing, what vehicles I had.
yeah.
And I was able to say, actually, don't use that mile per gallon figure. Use this one because I know that for my particular business.
Mm,
Like you said here, I mean, you could start putting in and saying, okay, well, you've estimated these costs. I actually want you to change these costs and rerun it. And the thing
mm,
that's amazing is, you tell it that, it reruns it, and it takes seconds to
Yeah.
rework the whole scenario with
Yeah.
your information and your figures in. And just like you said there, Jill, I mean, we're talking about a web agency here, but we could be talking about a painter and decorator,
Mhm.
any other business you care to name, because it's basic business and budgeting setup that it's doing, isn't it? So it's
Absolutely.
so helpful to give you an idea of what you need to be thinking about.
Yeah, and I mean, number of websites. It could be number of widgets, number of, I don't know, welly boots, whatever it could be. 88 and a half welly boots. You don't want to be left with half it, or 89 welly boots. That would be really awkward, wouldn't it?
It would be, and just on the 89, like you're talking for the websites there, so realistically, that's 2 websites per week,
Mm,
if we get rid of the fractions. So, in order for this mythical agency
yeah,
just to carry on surviving, they've
yeah,
got to complete 2 new websites every single week of the year,
yeah,
without break. So it's
yeah.
yeah, and the same for welly boots, like you say, if that's what you were doing.
Exactly. So that takes you back to the mythical staff that it's picked out for you. You might know more about production of welly boots than me, and know that actually I don't need 3 designers of welly boots. I can do that with 2. Therefore, I can make some cost savings there. And again, you can come in and wangle that about, or you can, the other thing about this is based on staff, full-time staff, but actually you could rework this if you're using outsourcing or paper project type scenario. So what do we call it? Fractional outsourcing. So you're just getting these people in to do either on a project by project basis, or part-time or whatever. So again, you can adjust this, but it gives you a really good starting point, I thought, to get going.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the chat GTP. Now you got me doing it now. Chat
It's right in
GPT
front of you, Martin.
right in front of me.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and incidentally, that's the 4.0, so that's the paid version of it as well. So that'd be interesting. So I ran exactly same queries through Gemini and Claude or Cloud or whatever you. I think it's Claude actually. I'm going to say it's got a little bit of French hee-haw-hee-hawing in. That's probably not something you're supposed to say. But anyway, the best. So again, the Gemini is done something very similar, although it's broke up into a core team of 3 to 5 people, and it's decided that this is your core team. And actually, I felt that this was much more realistic. Your designer, your front end, your back end, and your project manager, I thought was a really good core team, rather than like all of those other things. And then the optional as you grow. Again, I like that it's as if it thought about it and thought, oh, you're not going to get them when you start out, and then get onto the sales manager, and then an SEO specialist, which I thought was really good, because again, SEO is such an important part of the stuff we do, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, for us as web designers, it doesn't matter how wonderful everything else is. If nobody can find your website, then you're not going to actually make a profit out of your website, and that's what we're hoping to achieve. So, and just one quick thing to say as well, just in case anyone doesn't know. So, Gemini is Google's product, as opposed to ChatGPT before, which you're looking was an OpenAI product. So, yeah.
Yep. Thanks for that. And the workflow in this, again, it's slightly differently laid out, but I like the way this is laid out, because it could be applying to any business, because most businesses, particularly service-based businesses, you have an onboarding, you have a design and development, or whatever you're doing with your clients, and then you have some quality assurance and launch, or some kind of conclusion to what you've been doing with them, and then you might have an ongoing maintenance, which we have in webs, but you with other physical products, you might have maintenance or ancillary. Thinking about cars, you might sell them warranties or ongoing services or whatever. And then your marketing strategy is, again, it's build the online presence, develop client relationships. I just kind of like the way they set that out. It felt a wee bit more sensible to me. However, I went on and asked it, how many websites do I have to make it profitable? And it just did not want to play. Unfortunately, there is no one size fits all answer to that. And it's just given me a big blurb about you would need to take into account all these things and so here's a very simplified example. So it's not even a realistic example. It's just about showing you what profit margin looks like. I was a bit disappointed with that output from Gemini, to be honest. So there we go. That's that.
Yeah, it's interesting that what Gemini's given you is things to think about, which, if you weren't already aware of those things, would perhaps be helpful when you then went back to the Chat GPT one and gone, thank you all very much for the example figures you've given me. Now I've thought about something else because I want Gemini to help me think about it, and feed that back into the original model, perhaps. So you can kind of use a combination to get to, the answer that you really want. But
yeah, good point.
I was doing a session on an AI yesterday for a talk, and we all agreed that the most difficult bit, when you're starting anything, is having a blank piece of paper, whether you're writing something or whether you're putting together a business plan, as we are here. It's so much easier if you've got something that you then change, as opposed to this blank piece of paper that you can't start. So at least these things are, getting past that blank piece of paper bit.
I think that's, what you're saying is right. And what we used to do is, we would go away and we would get the back of an envelope and you would write things down and do a few calculations and that, no, that's not work. You scrub that out, try again. And then the modern equivalent of that is if you were really fancy, you would have a spreadsheet and you might play around with the numbers a bit, but it doesn't take into account the different thinking about the different roles and the different ways of structuring things. So this, literally takes about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes max to type in and run everything. And then you can play around. Within half an hour, you can have a really solid business plan, going on and know if you're going to do that. What gives you decision-making power very, very quickly, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things, that we always say is, of course, with these AI tools, they'll produce something if you understand what it's producing. So, if you're a coder and you ask it for code, then you can see the code that comes up and you know whether it's good or bad code in simple terms. If you're doing business planning and you've never done any business planning before, irrespective of what comes out here, you will, of course, go to a business coach and get them to put their human eye over it and go, well, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. So all of these things are useful if you already have some knowledge or access to some knowledge and expertise in the area that you're running it for. I know some people are going, oh, that's so obvious. But I found, like, recently, it's that you can't do that thing where it's like, well, computer says this, so it must be right. And always, I noticed, like, Gemini down here, they're all going, yeah, we might display inaccurate info, etc. So these are a tool. They're not a replacement, not at the moment.
100%, that's right. Okay, let's have a look at Claude. Okay, so I actually quite like the interface. It makes the question look very different. So I quite like this interface that it uses. So again, when I ran the exact same question with Claude, it gave me very similar actually to Chat GPT. It wants me to have 2 or 3 front-end developers, 1 or 2 back-ends, quality assurance, sales, and a digital marketing specialist. They didn't feel that SEO was quite so necessary, but that's interesting in itself, isn't it? Just the difference between them, the type of staff that they're suggesting. So I guess that's, again, you need to look and think, okay, right, what's actually appropriate to my business in my context. And to do with your goals as well. My goal might never to be, really to touch SEO, and that's fine. Then I don't care about it. So you can, but why would you not care about SEO as a website? Anyway, but there you go. That was just for example. Okay, so they also were looking at the average between £5,000 and £1,500 per website. Again, a little bit eye-watering for where we are in the current economic climate, I would say. But anyway, there we go. And then some workflow. What's interesting is that it's actually attributed the workflow to the role that it's suggested. And I quite like that. I would like to have seen more of that. I'd like to expand on that. So I would probably spend some more time digging into that. Again, the sales manager acquires the clients, then the project manager creates the project. The UX designer creates the wireframes. I really like the way it came up with that, because that gives you a real feel for who's doing what within the process.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you can take, because it's a chat interface,
Mm,
you can say to it, yeah, number 7 above there. You don't even have to say project manager. You talk
mm,
about number 7, tell me a bit more about it. Literally use those words, and you'll get a bit of a drill down into that bit. So I really like the ones that do a short summary, like this has done,
mhm,
giving you the option to go, okay, tell me more about that point,
mm.
rather than there's one of them that gives you a lot of information right from the get-go, and you end up with this huge list, which is a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's quite nice, isn't it? I do like this interface. And it's gone onto the marketing strategy again, and it has got SEO strategies in here as well, so that's fine. And to ensure profitability, aim for utilize 78% of billable staff. Oh, that's an interesting um, sort of figure to look at, which we didn't see in the other two, by the way. It's telling you that you're looking to utilize 70 to 80% of billable hours for your staff. That is very interesting. I like that. That gives you a real uh, in-house KPI to go for, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love the sentence at the bottom as well. Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect? It's nice.
Yes, it's
It's very
just
catchy.
yeah. I have to say that this is my first time using Claude, and I really like it. I'm very impressed. Also, some of you might know, some of you might not, but it's also quite one of the more ethical ones. They have quite a strict background in keeping people safe. So you might find that some of your questions would be actually rejected if it deems your question to be a little bit risky or dodgy in any way. So if you said, how can I hack the White House? It's going to tell you, no, we're not going to. You should not do that. That's very naughty. No, I'm not going to type that in because I don't really want the FBI or the CIA or whoever swinging in ropes through my windows. But do you know what I mean?
It would
Um,
make us an exceptionally interesting live stream, but possibly not.
it
Yeah.
definitely would.
So we're 20 odd minutes in. Just a quick question, Jill. You said the Chat GPT model you used was the paid model. Is this
Mm.
the free or the paid model of Claude?
This is the free one. So Claude's
Wow.
structured a little bit differently. So it gives you, for the free one, as far as I understand now, there's a number of different versions of Claude, and I haven't really quite got my head around it. But as far as I can understand, that it gives you, if you select the version that you want, you get so many searches, if you like, for want of a better word. And if you want more, you have to subscribe to the pro version. So you can see, subscribe to the pro for 5 times more usage with 3.5 Sonnet. So I think you get everything pretty much that's in the pro, but you just can't do, once you've done. So that's actually really good, isn't it?
It's a great way to experiment and try it out, isn't it? And see, whether it works for you or not.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and just briefly to wrap up, it also did the calculations a little bit as well, and it said, in line with what you said, Martin, it's talking about 4 to 5 websites per month to be comfortably profitable. And yeah, it's obviously given you, this is the provisos that, if you do more high high costing ones, you get more profit, etc. So so I really like that. Don't really have time to do much more at the moment, but go away, folks, try these things, plug in your details, and see what it comes up with, and see if you can be inspired to if run your business more efficiently, change the structure of it, or obviously, like Martin says, check out what you're getting before you completely change your whole business. Get to speak to some real advisors and ask some questions. Is this sensible?
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. That's fascinating, Jill, because in true lifestyle, I haven't seen that presentation before you did it. So really, I find that super interesting. And for everyone, watching or possibly listening along, because we'll stick the audio version on Spotify. Obviously, you can't see the stuff on audio, but the point about what Jill's talking about, I think you can still be able to pick up. So there's a couple of things. The quality of the output is directly related to the quality of the input. So knowing how to structure the prompts, yes, you can use just plain English, but there are certain things you can do to get better output. Secondly, knowing exactly what to ask, how to ask it, and then how to drill down. If you want help with any of that, if you just want to a general chat to us, because we're starting to look at this thing. When I say this thing, I mean the use of AI to help businesses on a more regular basis. So come and have a chat about how you think you could use it. I know I'm talking to businesses on a fairly regular basis now about how they're already using it, and if they're not using it, ways that could help them. I know Jill's doing the same thing. So hopefully this live stream has been useful for you. We've gone through it fairly quickly because we want to keep it sub 30 minutes. If you have any comments, we would love to see comments, particularly on the YouTube channel. Helps us to know that what we're doing is useful. Obviously, it helps YouTube to share this to more people as well. Even a thumbs up, like, would be good. Any comments on LinkedIn would be great as well. My profile, Jill's profile, Mike, our other director's profile as well, or indeed the Allegiant web page. But yeah, please interact and let us know whether this sort of stuff's good for you or not. And we will be back with another one, unless you all interact and say, for God's sake, go away.
They might.
They might, and that would be useful to know. Gutting, but useful. So I'll leave you with a little end screen with a reminder of where you can get in contact with us. But thanks very much for that. Thank you for everyone who left comments as we go through. Yet again, I've managed to not multitask and get those up on the screen. I promise I'll do it next time. But yeah, thank you, Jill. Amazing stuff. Really useful. Thanks again.
Cheerio, bye.
Hey guys, before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss another episode. Please leave us a like or a review. It truly makes a difference when you leave reviews. And head over to allegiantweb.com/podcast, where you'll find a full transcript of the show, some key points, and quite a few other goodies for you. Let's build this thing together and really make a difference. All right, catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.